If you guys didn't know, you probably don't, but anyways, the original Resident Evil 4 was one of the first video games I ever played, if not the first. Thanks to a combination of my older cousins giving me my first console, the PlayStation 2, and my mom letting me play whatever I wanted, my first games ended up being Resident Evil 4 and God of War 2 at the very ripe age of 4 years old, or was it 6? But my point is, a child as young as I was should not be playing a game that mature. That being said, I genuinely want to thank my cousins and my mom for letting me experience that game, because if it weren't for them, Resident Evil probably wouldn't be one of my favorite franchises of all time. I'm not even gonna lie, it probably took me an entire year just to beat the original Resident Evil 4, mainly because my PlayStation 2 would randomly hit me with the red screen of death. And also, because I was scared shitless, because I was 6 years old. Regardless, I eventually finished the game, and the original Resident Evil 4 became one of my favorite video games of all time. So just imagine my surprise, back in 2021, when I learned that Capcom was remaking Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3. So, using basic common sense and process of elimination, I knew Resident Evil 4 was next. And I was beyond excited to finally play a remake of one of my favorite games of all time. Thankfully, the remake did not disappoint. I genuinely think Resident Evil 4 Remake is one of the best remakes I've ever played, and with Resident Evil Requiem coming out in a few weeks, I decided to revisit Resident Evil 4 by playing it on hardcore mode. So, let me explain why Resident Evil 4 is one of my favorite games of all time. To start things off, Leon is back to yapping about his trauma from Resident Evil 2.
September 30th, 1998. It's a day I'll never forget.
Oh no, his trauma is so sad. Anyways, Leon's mission is to rescue the president's daughter, Ashley. One of the dickhead police officers decides to take a piss and takes forever, so Leon goes to check it out. This section is honestly one of the scariest parts of the game. It's dark, you have no idea what's going on, and you're already encountering some creepy shit. Being a power-tripping government agent, Leon just straight up break into this guy's house. No knocking, no warrant, nothing. Jesus, bro. No wonder this guy attacks him. He was probably just defending himself from a random trespasser. Or should I say... Sadly, Leon snaps his neck for no reason. Bro then checks the basement, still without a warrant, and finds the police officer. Anyways, he was a dick, so it's fine. Then comes one of the scariest moments in the game.
No fucking way.
The dude whose neck Leon just broke comes charging at you full speed. Leon eventually learns about Ashley's whereabouts and boom, there's your goal. Next up, we get one of the most iconic sections in Resident Evil history. The village. I'm not even gonna lie, bro. This part beat my ass. Oh my god. Oh my goodness. I think I died like 5 times. And it really feels like an entire village is trying to kill you. The gameplay also felt super clunky at first, especially since I had just been playing The Last of Us Part 2 recently, which the gameplay in that game is very smooth. Brother. Oh my god. Back to Resident Evil 4. This village section is just pure chaos. Villagers are everywhere, and then you got the chainsaw man, chainsaw guy. Villagers are everywhere, and then you've got the chainsaw man, and once he touches you, you're pretty much dead. Not pretty much, you are dead. I'm so cooked. I'm so cooked. With the shotgun and grenades I managed to find, all I had to do was last a few minutes, which is what she always says. But it's way easier said than done. After multiple attempts, the bell finally rings, and thank God, because that was way more stressful than I remembered. Jesus Christ, thank you, Ada. Thank you. Thank God, bro. Then Leon hits us with his iconic quip.
Where's everyone going? Bingo?
The title card drops, and boom, one of the best intros of all time. This intro perfectly embodies the vibe of Resident Evil 4. And yeah, it can be scary at times. Most of the time, it's just straight up chaos. That chaos is reflected in the gameplay and amplified by a goated character like Leon Kennedy and his dumb clips. For the rest of the chapter, we continue pushing through the village and experiencing even more craziness. There are bear traps everywhere keeping you on edge, explosive traps you have to watch out for, enemies with dynamite, random villagers throwing hatchets at you like they got aimbot or something. At the very end of the chapter, we finally meet another character, Luis, and then the big cheese infects us, which leads us into the end of the chapter. Before we move on about the next chapter, let me talk about some of the gameplay stuff real quick. First off, parrying with a knife is awesome. It genuinely adds more depth to combat and makes fights feel way more engaging. Sadly, knives are a limited resource, so you just can't parry everything and feel invincible, which is fair, but still kind of sucks. One small nitpick I have is that you can auto-sort your case so your inventory is arranged automatically. It kind of removes the puzzle aspect of managing your inventory, and yeah, you could say, well, just don't use it, bro. I can't, bro. If you give me the option to do something that's way more efficient, how am I not supposed to use that option every single time? So waking up in a cell, we finally meet Luis again, and at the same time, we get to see some of Leon's straight up badassery, bro. We also finally meet Mr. What Are You Buying Yourself? The merchant. He's your classic merchant character, selling weapons and upgrades, but something new in the remake is the addition of the little blue side quests. These are pretty simple and easy to complete, and they don't really pose much of a challenge. The best part about the merchant though is getting to buy the rifle, which is probably one of the most go-to weapons in the game. Moving on, we reach the valley, and this area genuinely tests my patience to the point where I considered lowering the difficulty back to normal. Like, why are the enemies so accurate? Does Las Plagas turn the hosts into Steph Curry or something? Move, move! Oh my god, I'm dead, I'm dead. This area also feels like it has infinite enemies. I'm not even sure if it actually does, but it kind of feels like it. After the valley, we run into another Chainsaw Man. And at this point, Resident Evil 4's game design is really starting to click with me. I hear a chainsaw. Oh fuck! Oh fuck! Oh fuck, they got me. We eventually reach the end of the chapter and arrive at the house where Leon once again trespasses and kills a guy who's just trying to take a dookie, bro. If I remember correctly, there's a guy shitting in here. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, bro. I'm so sorry. Like, imagine minding your own business, taking a dookie, and some random blonde dude just kicks in your door and shoots you. Like, Leon is low-key the villain here. Thankfully, the guy gets his revenge in my playthrough. But he's back. Are we serious? I just put like 50 bullets in him. There are a few puzzles in this section, but they don't really require much brain power. I found them pretty straightforward. And after getting the key, we finally meet the big cheese again. And thankfully, we get saved by a mommy in red dress. Oh my god, it's mommy. Mommy? Sorry, mommy? My bad.
I would've fucked the daylights out of that Chinese lady.
Also, I was wearing an eye patch during this playthrough, and the cutscene just looks so unbelievably goofy. This brings us at the end of chapter 2. It's a pretty short chapter, but sadly, it took me about 40 minutes to beat, entirely because my aim is the greatest aim of all time. After getting out of the house, we hear a dog stuck in a bear trap. Because I am morally superior to most people, I obviously saved the dog. In the original Resident Evil 4, I actually didn't save it, not because I'm an asshole, but I didn't even know it existed. Before you attacked me, remember I was 6, and I was too scared to explore and was hikey just sprinting past everything. Heading back to the village, we encounter a new enemy. What the fuck? These creepy ass dogs, bro. Because I am morally superior, I didn't kill them. Definitely not because my aim is garbage. Yo, my aim is genuinely horrible. There are also traps scattered around the village to make sure you're not rushing. And because, like I said, I'm a pro, I obviously didn't hit any of them. We finally reach the church where Baby Eagle is, but sadly, it's not that simple.
To do so?
Oh, she's here. That's for sure. I'll find
That's
a
where they
way.
keep Jeffrey Epstein.
Find her-
So I guess we have to keep venturing onward. Along the way, Leon comes across a massive hammer that definitely doesn't foreshadow anything at all. I then get jumped by dogs again, and apparently they really love giving hugs. Oh! Now here comes the best part of the chapter. The firing range. For some reason, I spent like 30 minutes in there just to show off my superior accuracy, and as a reward, they give you something amazing, bro. The opportunity to gamble. Obviously, this doesn't affect me at all, and I can stop whenever I want. This video is sponsored by Couch. Jokes aside, I genuinely love the firing range. It's a great addition, and I honestly don't even remember it being in the original. In the remake though, it's super memorable, and this kind of side content is really what makes Resident Evil 4 special to me. Anyways, enough of my firing range tangent. The next area is the lake. Using the binoculars, we see a little something moving in the water, and if you want a pro tip from me, make sure you shoot the lake. I heard that you get a reward for shooting the lake.
Y'all want to see a little Easter egg? Nothing's definitely gonna happen.
Being for real, don't be like me. Save before doing this Easter egg, if you're gonna do the Easter egg, or else you'll lose all your firing range progress. Don't ask me how I know, bro.
Oh my god, I'm a fucking idiot. I'm a fucking idiot. What do you mean I'm spawning back here?
Next, you grab the boat fuel and head back to the boat to definitely cross the lake. That's when the lago shows up, and this is easily one of the most memorable moments from the original Resident Evil 4.
Yo, just start the boat, bro.
Because Leon is just built different, he just somehow has an unlimited supply of harpoons to throw at the lago. And honestly, this fight isn't even that hard. All you really have to do is spam harpoons and occasionally dodge. And because I'm the greatest player to ever exist, I definitely didn't die once. After defeating the lago, the chapter ends and we move on to chapter 4. So the chapter starts off with Leon having a nightmare. And then after finally getting back on land, we run into the ganados at night. And at night, things get worse. Once you blow their heads off, Las Plagas pop out like a messed up surprise party. And I genuinely love fighting these things. There's just something satisfying about enemies' heads popping, and I just want to say that their designs are actually really sick. Plus, they're not even too hard to deal with. The first half of chapter 4 is basically semi-open world. You can either rush through it pretty quickly, or you can take your time and explore, which the game heavily encourages. There are 2 main areas you need to visit to get the key, and the puzzles in this section really aren't that difficult. All you have to do is look around and pay attention. There's a boat in the middle of the lake where you can grab a goated handgun, the Red 9. You could also head back to the spot where Leon first meets Louise, and while you're there, you'll see the dead girl from the opening cutscene, which is unsettling. This area also introduces dogs infected with Las Plagas, which makes them way faster and way more annoying. On top of that, you can finish the hexagon puzzle, find a gold chicken egg, and even go fishing if you want to. There's honestly a lot to do around the lake, and I really recommend exploring instead of just rushing to the objective. Once we finally get the key, we start heading back to the church, but of course, nothing in this game is ever simple. This leads us straight into the El Gigante boss fight. Honestly, the fight itself is pretty simple. Just shoot the Gigante and dodge. However, if you save the dog back in chapter 3, which was the last chapter, the fight becomes even easier. The dog pulls most of the aggro, letting you focus entirely on shooting the Plaga on the Gigante's back. Overall, this fight is pretty easy. I only got hit once, and I guess if you want more of a challenge, you could just not save the dog, but at that point, a certain organization might come after you. After defeating El Gigante, we finally make it back to the church and rescue Baby Eagle. So this is our first chapter with Ashley, and she immediately adds another layer to the gameplay because now we actually have to protect someone. No! While escaping the church, she somehow kept getting taken, and The sheer number of villagers attacking us was insane.
Are we serious right now?
There's also a side quest in the area that I completely forgot to do and ended up missing. I'm pretty sure it involved going back to the house where Ada saves us to kill a specific enemy, but it completely slipped my mind. After running through the village and the farm, we finally make it to the house with Louise, and at this point, there's really only one objective: survive. The game straight up turns into Call of Duty Zombies, where you just have to hold out inside the house. Enemies are everywhere, coming in through the ground floor windows, the top floor, basically every possible entrance. This section was honestly pretty difficult. By the end of it, I was completely out of resources, even though I went in with a full case of inventory. That leads us to the end of chapter 5, where we learn Ashley is also infected, meaning we now have to find a way to cure both of us. Overall, chapter 5 is short and sweet, but still stressful as hell. Oh my god, mommy is back. For the first time, we finally get a full view of Ada Wong, and with the outfit and accessories I put on her, my god bro, she looks like a proper ABG. Anyways, she's apparently doing some shady stuff, but I honestly don't care for no reason at all. Definitely not because, you know, I don't know why. Back to Leon. The next section we're thrown into was insanely difficult for me. If you remember from the last chapter, I had pretty much exhausted all of my resources, so being dropped into a super tight area with basically nothing, while a bull and multiple ganados are attacking you, is not exactly a fun time. I even tried to stealth it, but clearly I'm either stupid and stealth's just not for me, or the stealth in this game is just whack, or it's not that good. Anyways, after getting past that section, we reach an iconic moment. Leon Kennedy doing a completely useless backflip instead of just taking one step back.
That was so useless, bro. Just step back.
This is exactly why I love Leon, bro. He's just so unnecessarily goofy and corny. Now, for the main entree of this area, it's the Chainsaw Sisters, or the Bella Sisters. I don't know what you want to call them. This section can be really difficult, especially since if they even touch you, you're basically dead. Thankfully, I had a bunch of grenades and flashbangs, so I managed to deal with them pretty easily. After that, I honestly thought we were heading straight to the castle, but I completely forgot that we still hadn't dealt with the big cheese. The cutscene where Leon stabs him and he just stands there unfazed is genuinely hilarious. This leads into a chase section where the big cheese and a bunch of villagers start chasing us. For some reason, my Ashley is dumb as hell and keeps getting incapacitated by the villagers. Like, bro, just watch this.
Ashley, get up. I see you. Ashley! How are you down again? Please. Oh my goodness. Are we serious? You're throwing. You're actually throwing.
After surviving the chase though, we get a short breather until the big cheese jumps us again. Leon hits us with his iconic line,
Hasta luego.
and now we're in a boss fight. So the big cheese basically turns into Victor Wembanyama, and now we actually have to fight him. There are two main ways to approach this fight: from the ground or from above. Fighting on the ground really relies heavily on dodging his attacks, which is simple enough. You just press circle when the game tells you when to evade. Fighting from above is a little different. Not only do you still have to dodge, but you also have to parry his attacks. On the plus side, his weak spot, which is an eye on his back, is way easier to see when you're up top. Once you deal enough damage to stun him, you can either knife him from the ground or just straight up dunk on him from above.
Here comes Rozier! He's got my house! Oh! Yowza!
After getting through the first half of the fight, he turns into Captain Carter and splits himself in half. Now he's hanging from the ceiling like Spider-Man, and you have to shoot him while he's constantly moving. At the same time, he's throwing a bunch of different stuff at you, and the whole arena is on fire, and you better watch out because sometimes I get caught on fire because I have no idea where I'm stepping. Occasionally he also lunges at you, so yeah, you better watch your surroundings. After finally killing the big cheese, we finally reach the end of the chapter, which concludes the village section of Resident Evil 4, And now we're moving on to the castle. The castle starts off with a bang. Nearly every encounter in the opening section is insanely hectic. I died 8 times and killed 72 enemies in this whole chapter, which is more than any other chapter so far. Right away, we're introduced to a new type of plaga, and this thing is insane. It sticks to the ceiling and then drops down to start chomping on your head. If it gets too close or lands on you, not fun. The very next encounter throws you straight into absolute chaos, with catapults everywhere launching explosives at you. This section honestly feels more like a puzzle than a straight up fight. You have to figure out different angles to shoot the red barrels next to the catapults, or if you're close enough, you could just chuck a grenade and call it a day. After surviving that, we finally meet my most memorable and probably favorite villain of Resident Evil 4, Salazar, bro. They call him Ramon in this game. I don't know why. I just called him Salazar the whole time. I guess that's his first name and Salazar is his last name, but okay, I'm just rambling about nothing now. One critique I have about the remake though is that he's not nearly as evil, like goofy evil, as he was in the original Resident Evil 4. But honestly, neither is Leon. Like, I kind of miss his...
No thanks, bro.
We're then introduced to the enemies with shields, which adds another layer of defense you have to deal with. If you're a good enough shot, you can use a penetrating weapon to headshot them straight through the shield. Another enemy also gets introduced here, the blind Wolverine looking dude, or the Garradors. I actually had a lot of fun fighting this enemy by sneaking around him and stabbing him in the back. It's also extremely satisfying to parry this guy somehow, because after a parry, his back is exposed. I don't know how Leon parries a fucking Wolverine melee weapon. I don't know. I'm not gonna question it. After defeating the Garrador, we move on to one of the hardest sections in the entire game. The water room, or the fountain room, whatever you want to call it. But everybody knows this room because it's so infamous in the original Resident Evil 4. And also in the remake, I guess? The difficulty is crazy. Oh my god, So why is this encounter so difficult? Well, I want to split the room into 2 halves. In the first half, you're swarmed by a bunch of cultists on the ground while getting shot at by crossbow enemies surrounding you. Ashley is also with you, so you have to protect her at the same time. If you focus on the crossbow enemies, the ground enemies then rush you and Ashley. But if you focus on the ground enemies, you just get shot at by so many arrows. This section really tests your aim and positioning. A rifle is also absolutely crucial here, especially since most of the crossbow enemies are long range. And if you think that only applies to the first half, it becomes even more important in the second half. Ashley moves up to a higher floor and you have to protect her while she's raising the bridge. This puts even more pressure on your aim, especially since rifle ammo is usually pretty limited. Hitting the enemies rushing towards Ashley is critical, but at the same time, you still have to defend yourself because cultists just keep running at you, bro. It's way harder than just protecting Ashley alone. I failed this section a few times, not just because I kept dying, but because I also accidentally kept shooting Ashley. On top of that, some enemies have head armor, which makes everything even more annoying. Overall, the entire water room encounter is extremely challenging, but I also found it pretty fun because of that challenge. I genuinely enjoyed this section, and after surviving it, we reach the end of the chapter. Ashley gets mind controlled, we get separated, and that brings chapter 7 to a close. Because Ashley decides to run away, we now have to take a long ass detour through the castle just to reunite with her. Thanks, Ashley. Along the way, we finally encounter the red robe dude who can activate the plaga inside enemies. On one hand, activating the plaga makes enemies way more dangerous, but on the other hand, a single flash grenade can just wipe out an entire group, so it kind of balances itself out. And once again, I'd like to thank Ashley for forcing us onto this detour because we encounter Mommy again. Mommy!
And then I might get you that greeting you were looking for.
Yeah, I'd take that
You
deal.
think I'm gonna give up that easy?
This is Leon's first face-to-face meeting with Ada, and the tension is unreal, bruh. Or maybe my brain is just too gooner. Who knows? Honestly, my only real complaint with Ada in the remake is her voice. It comes off more uninterested than confident and unshaken.
You don't seem surprised. Interesting.
Maybe it'll grow on me over time, but right now I'm not fully sold. The puzzle right after this section genuinely exposed how stupid I am at the game. The solution is literally just matching the shape and symbol with the tablet, and somehow it took me like a few minutes just to understand the puzzle. I was looking around the room for a solution because I was too stupid to see that it was right in front of my face.
Okay, I see it now. I see it. Oh my god, I'm just dumb, I guess.
We also encounter another new enemy, one where a Plaga takes over an enemy that already has a Plaga, so Plaga squared? I completely underestimated this thing and died twice because of it. Next up, the game introduces the Sun and Moon door mechanic, which is only in this chapter, and honestly, I'm not a huge fan of this. It feels like it forces a lot of unnecessary backtracking, especially when there's treasure involved. I'm not saying backtracking is bad, because Resident Evil 2 Remake has a lot of backtracking and that game is good, but here it just feels so... it feels like it just gets in the way, you know what I mean? Finally, we get Zeke Yeager himself throwing rocks at us while we're running. I genuinely felt like I was a scout regiment member getting pelted from above. After dealing with him though, we finally reach the end of the chapter and reunite with Ashley. Overall, chapter 8 is fine. It's not bad by any means, but the most memorable part by far is Leon meeting Ada face to face for the first time. Reunited with Ashley, the next section we have to deal with is the courtyard, which is a maze that, well, feels like a maze. On top of that, the creepy ass dogs keep jumping out of the bushes, which definitely kept me on edge. Once you make it through the maze, the castle pretty much opens up completely. You can backtrack all the way to where you first meet Salazar, return to the areas from chapter 8, and now that Ashley is with you, you can access new sections. You also get the cube, which lets you open a bunch of treasure spots around the castle. You're also given 30 different locations to visit in order to collect heads to progress the story. So the first area I tackled was a puzzle room. The puzzle here is pretty simple. Just sit where it matches the painting, nothing too crazy. The next room I went to was the armor room, where you fight a bunch of suits of armor infested with plagas. For some random reason, I absolutely love fighting these enemies. It's super satisfying ripping their armor apart and killing the plaga inside. Ashley is actually really useful here too, since she throws blue fire that freezes the armor in place, so thanks Ashley. The final section is just a room filled with enemies, and honestly the only reason I remember this room is because of the skip. If you throw a grenade before they pull the lever, you can skip the entire section. Before continuing the story though, I had to do it. I had to. I spent another 30 minutes in the firing range because they added new levels in this chapter. I've already yapped about the firing range earlier, so I won't do it again. I'll just say this, it's still insanely fun, and this time, Ashley is there too, providing words of encouragement. We place the heads on the statue and wow, surprise, we get separated from Ashley again. Oh my god, I just love that. I just love getting separated from Ashley, because, you know, I actually prefer playing the game without Ashley because, you know, I don't have to protect her and anything. Okay, I got lost. Okay, at this point, this game takes a sharp turn because now you actually play as Ashley, which I completely forgot and didn't expect. Compared to Leon's over-the-top, chaotic gameplay, Ashley's section shifts Resident Evil 4 from action horror to straight-up horror. This is what happens when you throw yourself into the same world, but without all the weapons that make the game feel action-heavy. This section is clearly inspired by the Weeping Angels. If you don't look at the armor, it starts moving. And I've always found the Weeping Angels terrifying, mostly because one of my biggest fears is the unknown. Not knowing what's happening around me genuinely messes with my head.
Okay, that shit scared the shit out of me. It was my shadow.
This section is pretty short, but honestly, I kind of loved it. It's one of the few moments in the game where I felt genuinely scared again. And Ashley eventually saves Leon, and then immediately gets kidnapped, and with that, chapter 9 comes to an end. Chapter 10 starts off with Ada talking to Wesker, which is, I believe, his first real appearance in the story, unless I forgot that he already appeared in it. Anyways, going back to Ada's voice acting, I've actually changed my mind from earlier. She sounds like she's just reading directly off a script.
Everything will work out just fine. He's a good boy. Predictable.
I don't want to keep yapping about it though, so just listen to it yourself and tell me what you think. Back with Leon, Ashley is gone again, which honestly makes the gameplay much easier. But before continuing forward, you can return to the area where you previously played as Ashley, but this time as Leon. Even though the enemies and environment are the same, the vibe is completely different. What felt like pure horror with Ashley becomes much more action focused and fun when playing as Leon. As we move on, the game introduces a new enemy that I found absolutely disgusting.
What the fuck, bro? Oh my god. Hey, there's another one!
In real life, I'm not really scared of bugs or insects at all, but in video games, hell nah, bro. I skipped the Siofra River in Elden Ring because of those disgusting ass ants, and every time I go through that area, I close my eyes, mute the audio, and run for my life. But because I'm a man, I believe, I faced my fears and managed to survive this section. The next encounter though, wow. Not only do they throw one Garador at you, but two, and one is wearing armor.
Oh wow, Garadors. Two of them!
Great. There's two of them.
Nice. He just said what I said.
As if that wasn't enough, enemies also spawn non-stop during the fight, so just good luck with that. Despite all of this, I actually enjoyed this encounter. It felt like a solid challenge, and the Garadors attacking the other enemies also made it a little bit more manageable. After surviving that chaos, we finally catch up to Ashley, only for Leon to immediately get jumped and thrown into a hole. Wow. Thanks to his insane ass luck or just pure plot armor, Leon manages to grab a chain and hang on for dear life.
Oh my god, I thought Leon just died. I was like, I don't remember Resident Evil ending this way.
Down in the depths, the area is extremely dark and filled with the same bug enemies from earlier. This section was genuinely stressful, especially because my brightness was low, thanks to my amazing screen. I don't even have an OLED, what am I talking about? And the bugs hide under the water, making them nearly impossible to see. Thankfully, I pushed through and made it to the final encounter of the chapter, the Verdugo fight. Verdugo is not only incredibly fast, but also insanely tanky. There's technically an option to just wait for the elevator and avoid fighting him, but I don't know if you know me, you could probably guess what I chose to do. The fight revolves around luring Verdugo into liquid nitrogen traps to freeze him, though there are only a limited number of them, so you have to use them wisely. Since he's so fast, running away really isn't an option. You need to rely on well-timed evasions and parries to survive. As expected, this man is tanky as bricks, and I ended up using almost all my resources just to defeat him. I'm not sure if it was even worth it. Overall, the fights in this chapter were really enjoyable, and except for the disgusting bug enemies from hell that I never ever want to see again, I swear to God. Chapter 10 does a great job of encapsulating the pure chaos that Resident Evil 4 is really known for. Thanks to Louise, Leon is temporarily saved from the infection. In this chapter, Louise stays with you as a companion the entire time, and unlike our other companion, he's actually useful. I don't think Ashley is useless, but she could definitely be more of a liability than an asset. Louise, on the other hand, is genuinely helpful. And the best part is I can't accidentally kill him. This chapter brings back the firing range, and at this point, you already know the drill. Luis is absolutely glazing me the whole time, which instantly makes him one of my favorite companions, even though we only have two.
That was dirty.
After finishing the firing range, we move into our first major encounter, the area where you have to obtain the TNT. This section is absolutely insane. There are like Ganados everywhere, throwing bombs, Molotovs, hatchets, Plagas coming out. Pause. I could just imagine a Plaga coming out of the closet. Anyways, there's chainsaw enemies sprinting around like it's nothing. Thankfully, Luis is with you, so he can actually save you if you get grabbed, which makes this encounter way more manageable. After you secure the TNT, we blow up the obstacle and move forward.
Oh shit!
This leads us to the fight with the two El Gigantes.
Alright, one for each of us. He literally just said what I said.
In this fight, one is armored and one is completely butt naked. Since Luis is with us, he can draw the aggro of one Gigante while you deal with the other, which usually is the naked one. The fight is similar to the original Gigante, but this time, your weapons are absolutely insane, so it felt so much easier. As for the armored Gigante, I believe you can kill it by just dumping bullets into its mouth, but the intended method is waiting for Luis to plant dynamite on his back and blowing his back out. Pause. After that, you drop the armored Gigante into the lava pit, which ends the fight. Now we move on to the goofiest section in the entire game, the minecart sequence. This part is just so goofy to me, bro. Like, just look at the gameplay. Like, I can't take it seriously watching Ganados casually riding minecarts like it's like a theme park or something. Despite how ridiculous it is, this section actually tests your aim and your ability to balance the cart. Overall, it's a really short but really fun segment. And then they bring back the bugs again, like, are we serious?
Oh my god! Fucking hell!
You already know how I feel about this, so here are my thoughts. Somehow Leon and Luis make it to the elevator. I genuinely don't remember how, because my brain just completely erased that part. Once we reach the top, this happens.
Luis!
Oh my.
Bro, why would they kill Luis off? Luis. As revenge, we move on to the Krauser fight, which I honestly didn't find very difficult. Probably because I had just finished playing Liza P. For some reason, Krauser also just stood there doing nothing at one point, which just had me confused. Regardless, I win the knife fight and successfully avenge Luis. But because, you know, the game is scripted, I still lose, which we then move on. Going back to Luis's death, compared to the original game, he's much more fleshed out in the remake. In the original, I honestly forgot he even existed and thought he was a brand new character when I first played. In the remake though, I like him more as a character, but at the same time, I didn't feel much when he died. He's really only present during this chapter and the survival section, so while he is more developed in this remake, he's still not as fleshed out enough for his death to hit that hard, to me personally. Chapter 12 begins with Ada calling Leon to tell him where Ashley is being taken, and honestly, her voice doesn't even sound bad here.
Ada!
Leon, there's only time to say this once, so listen up. They took your friend to the top of the clock tower. If you hurry, you might get there before she turns into one of them.
So you aren't heartless after all. I guess I should be thankful.
Yeah, you should.
I'm not sure if it's because of the direction the voice actor was given, but at times, I actually like how she sounds. Now, before heading to the clock tower, I do a little bit of side quests, and after I wrap those up, I finally make my way there, where we're immediately greeted with some of the silliest medieval traps imaginable. There's literally a giant statue of Salazar with a flamethrower in its mouth, which might be the most ridiculous defense system ever. On top of that, there are massive iron balls rolling down the stairs like it's a cartoon. Near the top of the clock tower, there's an elevator defense section where enemies jump onto the lift while you're ascending. This part was actually pretty easy, mainly because the game generously places a ton of red barrels around the area for you to shoot. Once you reach the top, you're basically at the end of the chapter, but be careful because parts of the platform break in the construction area around the tower.
Yo, why did he scream so loud?
Then we get to the Salazar boss fight. This fight is decently challenging. Salazar moves around constantly, and his weak spot only opens up for short windows, so you have to stay ready. He also lays traps all over the arena, which makes camera control extremely important. Most of the traps are on the ground, while Salazar himself sticks to the walls and ceilings, so you're constantly looking in different directions. His projectiles are pretty erratic too, but I found out that you can avoid most of them by staying mobile and just constantly moving and using cover. The most annoying move, and the one that killed me the most, is his chomp attack. If he charges and manages to grab Leon, it's basically game over, and you have to do the whole fight again. Overall, this is one of the tougher bosses in the game, especially because the arena feels tight and claustrophobic. I also have to give credit to the music during this fight, as it really cranks up the tension and makes everything feel more intense. And with Salazar defeated, that really wraps up the castle section of the game, which then moves us to the next chapter, the island. And thankfully, an ABG comes and saves us and takes us there. Yo, look at Leon, bro. He's such a passenger princess. Anyways, Leon and Ada head off to the island, and the tension between them is crazy. You could feel the tension. Or I'm just Gooner again, I don't know. Welcome to the island in Resident Evil 4, which is also practically a military base. The enemies here are way tougher compared to the castle. Not only do they have guns, body armor, electric batons, but they also have RPGs. Like, this is now Call of Duty. On top of that, the plagas burst out way more often and they don't get stunned as easily, which means I get to kick them fewer times, which is kind of sad. Compared to the castle's goofy medieval traps, this section feels very serious. It genuinely feels like you're invading a fortified military compound, which you are, and this chapter is pretty much just pure action. You get little room to breathe, and there's always constant pressure on you. Then I finally get to the lab. Not only is this area creepy as shit, but it's genuinely difficult, bro.
Oh,
Fuck are you?
Mainly because of the brand new enemies, the regenerators. These things are nightmares, especially if you don't have thermal scope yet, or I should say biosensor scope. I call it thermal. Okay, never mind. Shooting off their limbs somehow makes them worse, because they just start flopping around like a fish, and they just start it's scary as shit. Honestly, I just recommend running from them if you can. I made the mistake of wasting a ton of resources just trying to kill one early, and honestly, I don't think I even killed it. Once you get the thermal scope though, it's barbecue chicken from there. Completely different fight. Being able to see the parasites inside them just changes everything. And as for the puzzles in the lab, yeah, me personally, that took way too much brain power. At some point, I just started pressing random combinations and hoping for the best. After we survive the lab section, we finally reunite with Ashley again, which then wraps up the chapter. Chapter 14 is easily the longest chapter in the game, and since Ashley is back with us, everything instantly becomes harder again. So just imagine the previous chapter, all the chaos and all the military base bullshit, but this time now you have to protect Ashley. In this chapter, I died the most times out of any chapter, and it's a lot, and there's a lot of reasons why. My first major roadblock is the brand new regenerator. They were like, oh, so now you have a thermal scope, let's buff these guys and let's call them Iron Maidens, right? If you thought the regular regenerators were manageable, just think again. These ones mutate and become even more dangerous. They shoot out shrapnel that does a decent amount of damage and stuns you, which can really lead to your death. When they hit you though, it's technically not an instant kill, but their hits do so much damage that it practically feels like one. Then we get to what might be the hardest encounter in the entire game. After switching the power back on in the sewers, a wave of enemies rush Ashley. So now you have to protect her. That sounds manageable, right? You've done that pretty much your whole game. Well, this game also spawns another Iron Maiden right next to you. Not only are you trying to deal with one of the most dangerous enemies in the game, but you're also trying to stop Ganados from taking Ashley. The amount of times I died here is insane. I'd either get shredded by the Iron Maiden while trying to save Ashley, or I'd focus on killing it and turn around to see Ashley getting taken away by the Ganados. On top of that, I kept accidentally shooting Ashley through those tiny gaps you're forced to aim through.
I can't see anything. Oh my god.
Do not touch me.
Oh my. Oh my goodness. What the fuck?
And like, why do some of the Ganados have armor? Like, why? That just makes it so much harder. This section honestly made me rage more than any other part of the game.
I'm getting grabbed too, bro. It's not dead!
The next section has you protect Ashley again while she destroys a wall. Compared to the sewer fight, this part is way more manageable. It's still a challenge, but it's really nothing too crazy. The enemies mostly pressure you rather than targeting Ashley non-stop. Eventually we move forward and finally meet Sadler in person for the first time, unlike the original Resident Evil 4 where we meet him in the village. Thanks to pure plot armor, Leon somehow walks away unscathed this time. Like, yeah, just watch this.
It's out of bullets. Thank God Leon only keeps 3 bullets in the chamber.
Pray forgive these wicked sinners.
Oh my god.
Of course, Ashley gets kidnapped again, which sets up the finale of the chapter, the Krauser fight. In this fight is probably the most complete boss fight in the game. The first phase is more of a hunt. Krauser stalks you, and your main objective is to progress through the area and open the door. Meanwhile, he sets a bunch of traps everywhere, so you have to stay alert. After that, we enter the true second phase, the actual arena fight. It's similar to the first knife fight where Luis dies, but this time you can actually use guns too. This fight can be challenging if you're not paying attention to the traps around the arena, or if your parrying isn't on point. Once you deal enough damage though, Krauser mutates. He grows a shield and blade arms, and the fight briefly turns into a horror sequence where he ambushes you while you're in the dark. The final phase is where things get serious. His left arm is now a massive blade, and most of his attacks can be countered still by parrying somehow. Leon is just that different. His right arm is pretty much used to just grab your head, so positioning really becomes important to avoid getting caught by his right arm. He also lunges at you occasionally, which requires hitting the evade prompt at the right time. At one point, he jumps up onto a ledge and prepares a big AoE attack. The only way to avoid it is by climbing the ladder nearby and being safe from the blast radius. Once you understand his moveset, the fight becomes really manageable. Overall, the Krauser fight was extremely enjoyable, and honestly I kind of wish he had a little more health because it felt like he went down pretty quickly once I got the rhythm of his fight down. Leon then finishes Krauser, takes his knife, which then brings chapter 14 to a close. If you really love the gameplay of Resident Evil 4 and just prefer pure action in general, then this chapter is for you. As the penultimate chapter of the game, it throws absolutely everything at you. And I mean everything. Traps, riot shields, ganados, bugs, absolutely disgusting by the way, turrets, enemies with guns, RPG guys, regeneradors, plagas. Oh my god, did I make my point clear? Honestly, this chapter is kind of forgettable because it's just so much action. When I'm fighting enemies that shoot back with full military gear, it almost doesn't feel like Resident Evil anymore. It feels like I accidentally loaded another video game. In the first half, we're joined by Mr. Helicopter Guy Mike. He basically flies around blowing everything up, which is helpful most of the time. The problem is Mike does not understand the concept of friendly fire. There were definitely moments where I felt like I was fighting both the enemies and my support because he would just end up shooting me and the enemies at the same time, which would just stun me. Unfortunately, Mike gets taken out by the bugs, and of course it's the bugs. We then move on into a short intermission area with the regeneradors, And this section isn't terrible, but you're dealing with Iron Maidens again, so it's still kind of stressful. The second half of the chapter is basically the final push before we get to see Sadler again. It's similar to the first half. There's a ton of enemies, a lot of pressure, but this time Mike is dead, so nothing is blowing up. It's really just one long gauntlet meant to drain whatever resources you have left before the finale. Eventually, we reach Ashley. Sadler does get the upper hand on Leon, because of course he does, but thankfully, Ada swoops in and saves us, thanks to my mommy. Now this leads to the end of the chapter, where we finally remove the Plaga. Overall, combat is pretty much just the sole focus of chapter 15. It's kind of relentless, it's chaotic, and it's clearly designed to build tension and exhaust you before the final chapter, but it's really not the chapter for me, and I kind of found it forgettable. But I get what it's supposed to do. Now, on to the final chapter and the final boss fight. Chapter 16, the finale, the epilogue of Resident Evil 4. After Leon and Ashley remove the Plaga inside of them, they make their way outside, where they try to jump me again with more bugs, but at this point, I've adapted. I can see their camouflage, so they won't catch me lacking anymore. Now we're on to the final fight with Sadler. Leon sees that Ada is captured, because we know Leon's just not gonna leave his mommy hanging. He goes on to save Ada, and Sadler gets mad because we removed his parasite, his Plaga, which then he gets so angry that he turns into this massive 4-legged Plaga monster, which leads to the final boss fight of the game. And honestly, in my opinion, this fight is kind of underwhelming. There are really only a few main attacks. First, he spawns a bunch of bugs, not even really an attack, just kind of annoying, but it's really easy to deal with because they're just bugs. Second, he has a charged attack where he runs at you full speed, which is also not that hard to avoid because there's a huge stall before he does it. Lastly, there's the grab attack, which is the one that actually killed me the most. That grab does so much damage that you basically need to be at full health if you want to survive it. Other than that, the fight is mostly about positioning and occasionally hitting the evade prop. Compared to the Krauser fight, it just doesn't really have any interesting mechanics. It's basically just shoot the big monster in the eye weak spots until it dies. And what makes it worse is that it only really has one proper phase. On my first playthrough, I didn't even know that the rocket launcher would just one-shot him, so when I used it, I accidentally just skipped the whole fight. I was like, wow, that's the final boss fight. Near the end, Sadler mutates even more. Leon has to dodge tentacles while you spam bullets in him. Then Ada shows up one last time and throws Leon a red rocket launcher, which ends the fight for good.
How did he jump that high?
I'll give you a holy body.
Overall, this boss is kind of mid. The spectacle of Sadler mutating into something bigger lasts like 2 minutes, and I really wish they did more with that gameplay wise. For our final boss, it just kind of feels underwhelming. After the fight, Ada steals the Amber because of course she does, but she throws Leon a way out. That leads to the final set piece, which is escaping an island that's blowing up. And honestly, the jet ski escape is pretty fun. Like I said before, it's chaotic, it's goofy, and it perfectly matches the vibe of Resident Evil 4. Like you can even backflip with the jet ski. After that, Leon and Ashley escape, and boom, that's Resident Evil 4. So it's been a long journey, but revisiting Resident Evil 4 has truly been a trip down memory lane. Sure, the remake has its flaws. For me, it's mainly the toned down humor and somewhat mediocre final 2 chapters. I honestly wish that they hadn't dialed back the humor as much, and you might argue that today's standards don't really fit with the original styles of comedy. And I would somewhat agree with you, but there are definitely lines that they could have kept, like, no thanks, bro. Like, that line would have been perfectly fine with Leon's naturally corny personality. And like I've said earlier, chapter 15 and 16 were kind of disappointing. Chapter 15 is just action. It's really not for me. It just stops feeling like Resident Evil. And then the Sadler fight, she's just really a mediocre villain and final boss. both personality-wise and just gameplay-wise. He just wants to take over the world, turn into another massive plaga, and that's pretty much it. But despite all that, I still love this game. It genuinely takes me back to being a kid playing the original for the first time. And if you ask me why I love RE4 so much, I would probably say that it's the perfect balance of corniness, goofiness, the most satisfying action, and just pure chaos. I just love how absurd it is, and its absurdity is just so iconic. Blowing enemies' heads off, kicking, suplexing them, that's really just part of the magic. The parry mechanic in the remake also adds another layer of satisfaction that makes the combat even more fun, and it just feels so good to play. And that's not even everything. There's still the Separate Ways DLC, which I'll probably make another video about. And there's also the mercenary modes if you just love the gameplay loop of the game. I'm not gonna dive deep into that here, but it's just straight up fun. Requiem is also around the corner, and I'm honestly very excited about that. Like, just look at this Leon gameplay.
さらに洗練されたガンプレイっていうところにも力を入れてますね。
I'm also excited another particular thing, and maybe the reason I buy Requiem. But more than anything, best part about this game is Leon. Leon is just such a lovable character, and Resident Evil 4 really amplifies that. That's honestly probably one of the biggest reasons I might buy Requiem. I say might because I'm still a broke-ass college student, and I can't splurge $70, you know? I gotta spend it on alcohol. Yeah. What? Okay. Anyways, that's really all I got. Thank you for sticking around and watching this video. If you want more, feel free to like, subscribe, click on a recommended video on the screen, or if you didn't, feel free to dislike and tell me what you disagree with, or just honestly give me feedback, because I believe criticism is one of the best ways to improve. Anyways, I've been yapping for too long, so I'll see you guys next time.